Everyone stood frozen as the billionaire's lips turned blue. His own team watched him die, too scared to move. But then, the cleaner, an invisible woman, no one ever noticed, stepped forward. What she did next changed both their lives forever. Katharina dropped her mop. It hit the marble floor with a loud clang, yet no one looked her way. 7 men in fancy suits stared at their boss lying still on the ground. One cried softly. Another yelled into his phone with shaking hands. Michael Owen, the youngest billionaire in West Africa, wasn't breathing. And Katharina, the quiet cleaner no one ever noticed, was the only one moving. She rushed forward, pushing past the executives, and dropped beside him. Her heart pounded so loud she could barely breathe. She pressed 2 fingers on his neck, searching for a pulse. Nothing. For 3 long months, Katharina had cleaned this shining glass tower. She pushed her cart through halls filled with people in suits, talking about millions, never once looking at her face. She was invisible, like furniture in the background. But now, she was the only one who knew what to do. Her mind flashed to the free first aid class at the community center. She had gone only because they gave out free bread afterward. The trainer's voice echoed in her head. When everyone panics, someone must act. Katharina tilted Michael's head back, pinched his nose, and gave him 2 breaths. Then she placed her hands on his chest and pressed hard. 1, 2, 3, 4. What is she doing? Someone gasped. Get her away from Mr. Owen, another voice shouted. But Katharina didn't stop. She counted the compressions out loud, sweat dripping down her face. Her arms burned, but she kept going. 15, 20, 30. Then 2 more breaths. Please work. Suddenly, Michael's body jerked. He coughed, gasping for air like someone pulled from deep water. His eyes blinked open, weak and lost. Katharina sat back, shaking with relief. He was breathing. She had done it. The men finally moved, rushing forward and calling his name like he'd returned from the dead. Paramedics ran in, checking his pulse and lifting him onto a stretcher. He was alive. As they wheeled him out, Michael's eyes met Katharina's for one short second. She thought she saw gratitude there, maybe even wonder. Then he was gone. A tall man with silver hair turned toward her, anger twisting his face. What's your name? Katharina, sir. I'm a cleaner. You put your mouth on Mr. Owen? He said, like she'd done something filthy. Her stomach dropped. I gave him CPR. He wasn't breathing, so We'll check the cameras. He cut her off, voice cold and sharp. Go home. Don't come back until we contact you. If injustice like this makes your blood boil, subscribe so you never miss how this ends. Katharina's hands shook as she picked up her mop bucket. She wanted to explain, to make them see she had just saved his life. But the way they stared at her like she was something disgusting stole her words. She took the crowded bus home to her poor neighborhood, where houses leaned close like broken teeth and kids played football in the flooded streets. Her little brother Elvis sat outside their tiny room, hugging his knees. Sister Katharina, you're late. I'm hungry. She smiled weakly and touched his cheek. Let me cook something for us. That night, she made rice and stew with the last of their money. Elvis talked about his math test, while Katharina replayed the scene in her mind. The blue lips, the frozen men, Michael's eyes opening. Had she done something wrong? No. She had saved him. 3 days. Crawled by. No one called. On the 4th day, Katharina went back to the glass tower, hoping everything was fixed. The security guard stopped her at the entrance. You can't enter. But I work here. I cleaned the 20th floor. He didn't meet her eyes. HR says you're fired. Effective immediately. The word slammed into her chest. Fired? Why? What did I do? He shrugged. Something about inappropriate conduct with Mr. Owen. I don't know more. Inappropriate conduct. The ground felt like it was spinning. Katharina ran to the HR office, heart racing. The woman behind the desk looked at her like she was trash. The camera shows you kissing Mr. Owen while he was unconscious, she said coldly. That's assault. You're lucky we're not pressing charges. Kissing? Katharina's voice cracked. I was giving CPR. He wasn't breathing. I saved his life. We've made our decision. The woman slid an envelope toward her. Here's your final paycheck. Security will escort you out. Most people don't see the full story until it's too late. Subscribe before you miss what happens next. Katharina wanted to scream, to beg them to check again. But no one would listen. She was just a cleaner. Who would believe her over them? The guard walked her out like a criminal. People whispered, pointed, lifted their phones. By night, the story had already spread through every office chat. The cleaner who kissed the unconscious billionaire. Her phone buzzed all night. Some believed her. Most didn't. She deleted everything and turned it off. When she got home, Elvis saw her tears and understood. She told him everything. They fired me, she whispered. They think I attacked him. But you saved him, Elvis shouted. His voice shook with anger. You're a hero. Heroes don't get fired. Elvis. Katharina wiped her eyes. Heroes don't get called liars. The next week was like a storm for Katharina. She looked for jobs everywhere. But no one would hire her. The rumor had spread like fire. Every cleaning company said no. Their little savings were gone. Soon, they ate 2 meals. Then 1. Then half. Elvis stopped asking for food. Katharina felt the weight of the world on her chest. Headaches came, then fevers, then something worse. One morning, she couldn't lift her head from the thin mattress. Sister Katharina, wake up. Elvis shook her shoulder, crying, please, wake up. She tried to open her eyes, but the room spun in circles. I'm okay. Just tired, she whispered. But she wasn't okay. As darkness pulled her down, she wondered if saving Michael Owen had been a mistake. What she didn't know was that the truth was coming soon. Subscribe so you'll be here when it does. Maybe kindness only works for people who can afford it. Michael Owen couldn't sleep. It had been 3 weeks since he came back to work. He signed papers, attended meetings, and smiled like everything was fine. But every night, the same dream woke him. He was drowning, trying to breathe, until a woman's voice called him back to life. Doctors said he had a sudden heart problem, a 1 in a million thing for someone his age. They also said someone had done CPR before the ambulance came. Someone had saved him. But when Michael asked who it was, his team always said the same thing. It's handled, sir. Don't worry. Don't worry. How could he not worry? Someone saved his life, and nobody would tell him who. That night, Michael sat alone in his tall office, watching the city lights. Something felt wrong. Why wouldn't anyone say her name? Why did they change the topic every time he asked? He picked up his phone and called the head of security. I want to see the video from the night I fell. That's not needed, sir. We already... Send it. Now. When powerful people hide the truth, someone always pays the price. Subscribe to see who. 10 minutes later, the video arrived. Michael pressed play. The screen showed him speaking in the meeting room. Then, his hand went to his chest. He fell down hard. The people around him panicked, shouting, but no one helped. Then, the door opened. A woman in a cleaner's uniform ran in. She didn't wait. She went straight to him, dropped to her knees, and started CPR. Michael leaned close to the screen. Her moves were fast, strong, and sure. She breathed for him. She pressed his chest again and again. Her face was full of tears. But she didn't stop. She wasn't hurting him, she was saving him. And she did. When his body moved and he gasped for air, the woman sat back, tired but smiling. Their eyes met for a moment. Then the men rushed in, and she disappeared from view. Michael's hands shook. Who was she? Where was she now? He skipped ahead in the video. His face turned cold when he saw what happened after. His gray-haired CFO, Edmund, grabbed the woman by the arm. What's your name? Katharina, sir. I'm a cleaner. You put your mouth on Mr. Owen. Michael watched in shock as his own worker treated her like dirt. Anger burned inside him. He clicked forward to the next day's camera video. There she was again, Katharina being dragged out by guards like she had stolen something. Michael slammed his laptop and grabbed his phone. Edmund, come to my office. Now. 15 minutes later, Edmund walked in, looking nervous. Sir, it's midnight. Is something wrong? Tell me about the cleaner who saved my life. Edmund's face turned pale. Sir, we handled it right. She broke rules by... Broke rules? Michael's voice was quiet but cold. She saved my life while you all stood like statues. Where is she? We fired her. The image was bad, sir. If people found out that... Get out, Michael said sharply. Get out before I forget you worked here 10 years. People close to you are not always on your side. Subscribe so you never miss the truth. Edmund ran out. Michael called his assistant. I need you to find someone. Her name is Katharina. She cleaned here 3 weeks ago. Find where she lives. Find everything. 2 days later, his assistant gave him an address. Michael's heart sank. It was one of the poorest areas in the city. The woman who saved his life was living in a broken place while he slept in a palace. He didn't send a driver. He went himself. The streets were narrow. The houses were old. Kids played in dirty water. People stared at his black car like it didn't belong there. He found the place a small room in a building where many families shared one bathroom. He knocked on the wooden door. A small boy opened it. His eyes went wide. You're Michael Owen. From TV. I'm looking for Katharina. Does she live here? Michael asked. The boy's face crumpled. She's inside, but she's really sick. She won't wake up. Michael's heart stopped. What do you mean she won't wake up? She's been in bed for days. The boy whispered. I don't know what to do. I used all our money to buy medicine, but it's not working. His voice broke. I think she's dying. Michael pushed past him into the tiny room. It was smaller than his closet. In the corner, on a thin mattress, lay Katharina. She didn't look like the strong woman from the video. Her face was thin and pale. Her skin burned with fever. Her breathing was weak and shallow. How long has she been like this? Michael asked. 5 days, the boy said, wiping his tears. It started after she got fired. She couldn't find work. We ran out of food. She got sad, then sick, then she just fell. Guilt hit Michael like a heavy wave. While he went to dinners and signed million-dollar deals, the woman who saved his life was starving. She was suffering because his people had treated her like trash, because he didn't ask the truth. Sometimes, the people who save us need saving too. Subscribe before you miss what happens next. Call an ambulance, Michael said, grabbing his phone. We can't afford it, the boy cried. I'm paying for everything. Call them now. 20 minutes later, paramedics carried Katharina out on a stretcher. Neighbors gathered around, whispering. Michael didn't care. He got into the ambulance with her, holding her burning hand. You saved my life, he whispered. Now let me save yours. At the private hospital, the best doctors surrounded her. Their faces grew serious. Severe malnutrition, stress, exhaustion. They started IV fluids and medicine. Slowly, over 12 hours, her color returned. Michael never left her side. He sat beside her bed, eyes red from no sleep. When Katharina finally opened her eyes, she stared at the white ceiling. This wasn't her room. Where was Elvis? She turned her head and gasped. Michael Owen sat next to her, looking tired but relieved. You're awake, he said, his face soft with relief. Thank God. What are you doing here? Her voice was weak. I watched the security footage, he said quietly. All of it. His eyes filled with pain. I know what you did for me. I know what they did to you. And I'm so sorry. Tears filled Katharina's eyes. You believe me? I don't just believe you, he said. I know you saved my life while everyone else froze. You're the bravest person I've ever met. He leaned closer. And I'm going to make this right. I promise. My brother. Where's Elvis? He's in the waiting room. I'll bring him in. Michael stood up, then stopped. Katharina, you don't have to worry about anything again. Not money, not your home, not ever. Over the next week, Michael kept every promise. He moved Katharina and Elvis out of the slum into a clean, safe apartment. He paid for Elvis's school for the next 10 years. He gave Katharina a new job, not as a cleaner, but as the head of his new employee wellness program. But something else began to grow. Something neither of them expected. Michael visited her every day while she healed. They talked for hours. He learned about her dream of becoming a nurse. She learned how lonely his life was, even with all his wealth. They laughed. They shared stories. They saw each other not by class, but by heart. The best love stories start when someone sees your soul, not your status. Subscribe to stay with us. 1 month after she saved his life, Michael took Katharina to dinner at the city's best restaurant. She wore a simple dress he'd bought for her, though she had argued about it. I need to tell you something, Michael said, taking her hand across the table. When you saved my life, you didn't just bring me back from death. You woke me up. I was living in a cold world of money and meetings. People cared only about what I had, not who I was. But you risked everything and asked for nothing. You gave me a second chance. Katharina's heart raced. Michael took a deep breath. I've fallen in love with you, Katharina. Not because you saved me, but because of who you are. Your courage, your kindness, your heart. You fought for me when no one else would. His eyes shone. I know I don't deserve you, but I'm asking anyway. Will you give me a chance? Tears rolled down Katharina's cheeks. A month ago, she had been invisible accused, broken, forgotten. Now the man whose life she saved was telling her she'd changed his forever. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I will. 6 months later, Katharina joined nursing school. It was her childhood dream, something she could never afford. Michael paid for everything. He celebrated each exam she passed like it was his own victory. A year later, they married in a ceremony that filled the news. But Katharina made one rule. Half of the guests had to come from her old neighborhood, the people who stood by her when she had nothing. She never forgot where she came from. And Michael never forgot that the woman who saved his life had given him something much greater than breath. She'd given him a reason to live. True love doesn't care about money or power, it sees the heart. If this story touched yours, subscribe so you never miss another one. Comment below. Do you believe love can cross every boundary? Please share your thoughts and tell us where you're watching from. And if this story warmed your heart, drop a like in the comments.